So, welcome everyone to our second podcast on transformation management. This is a podcast for everyone that wants to learn about transformation management and how it can help your organization or yourself, maybe as a candidate, and you want to move into that area. What you should develop as a candidate and what the tips and tricks are and the challenges. So, for the second podcast, I invited Maarten Klarenbeek. We've known each other for many years. I don't even know, over 10 years, I'd say, at least. And Maarten will tell more about himself and what brought him to transformation management. If you will, Maarten.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And thanks for having me. Yes, my name is Maarten Klarenbeek. I'm an interim manager, change manager for a couple of years now. Background in logistics. Started my journey as a self-employed consultant in 2015, and then had the opportunity to work for a different client in different sectors, and with one common theme, and it is change in different ways, shapes, and forms. And yes, transformation, digital transformation, hot topic, of course, accelerated because of all the new digital opportunities. So looking forward to have this conversation.
Cool. And according to you, I'm asking this to all the guests in the Transformation Management podcast. What is transformation management according to you, and how is it different from change management?
Yes, well, digital transformation for me means unlocking new business models, new business opportunities by means of digital technology and digital services, and basically becoming a digital first company. Of course, that part for me is a bit tricky because digital first means different things for different companies. So, for instance, if you're a financial and you have an organization with a history of working with information systems, it's a bit easier to make that transition. It's more natural for the organization. But for instance, if you're more in the social sector or the healthcare sector, digital first is a bit of a hot or beladen term because, well, no, it's you're a people organization and you're not per se a digital organization. So there's a bit of an interpretation in there, and that's, I think, the role of the change agent and the transformation manager to understand, okay, what does it actually mean for the organization? What is the language, and how does it fit to get things moving?
Yeah, and then the difference between transformation and change is then transformation the entire program and change the actions, or
well, for me, a transformation is a journey.
Yeah.
Of course, there are examples where the burning platform principle, we have to change now, but that's always risky. For me, transformation means that you touch everything. It's not just only the technology, it's not only the people working with the technology, but it's the whole moral of the organization, the way that we do things around here, the stories we tell ourselves, the logos, the symbols, the routines, the power structures, both formal and informal. And yes, there's a technology component to it. So for me, a successful or a transition and transformation, which has the best chance of success, is a journey that you start. Yes, of course, there are examples when it's top down, when it's forced, when a leader with a vision turns the company around. But there's a risk because, well, what I think we all know from practice, that the best, most durable way of change is actually bottom up, right? Where we explain people what the goal of the transformation is, where we're heading. You give them the opportunity to adapt, to grow, and to learn. People change themselves, to change their behaviors. But sometimes, in some cases, you just don't have the time to do that. But it also means that you don't give people the time to adapt to the change. And then it's always tricky to understand, okay, does the transformation really stick? Or is it more transformation on paper?
Yeah. And then if you look at your role as an interim transformation management, how is, what is your role in being there only for a set time? Can you then, what can you do as an interim manager?
It completely depends on the situation, actually, and that's also which makes it fun, right? When for a transformation or change to happen, people need to experience both transformational leadership and transactional leadership, meaning transformational leader who inspires, who tries to get the best out of the people and shares the vision, try to get people enthusiastic, get things moving. But on the other hand, you also need a transactional leader who sets up the agreements, sets up the plans, the goals, the targets, etc., etc. And it actually depends on the situation of the organization where they are today. What's the leadership? What role are they taking? Honestly, when you look in IT, people are more transactional based, right? Process oriented people focusing on targets. Rollout is also a term you often hear within IT. We roll out this new plan, but yeah, changing people, it's not a matter of rolling out. It's people change themselves, so you have to motivate them. You have to sell the idea, right? It's the difference between selling it and telling it, and actually a bit of both. That's what you need in your role as a change agent. And yeah, like I said, it depends per organization, where they are in the process, where they are in their journey, and that's what makes it so much fun.
Yeah, and would you say it's easier as an interim manager to guide that transformation, or harder?
It has its pros and its cons. Well, first of all, the biggest advantage as an external transformation leader is that you have the external view, right? You don't have the legacy of working for 10, 20 years within the same company and having the same mindset and the same culture. You don't have the interests of people working in the standing organization. So you can be completely independent. And of course, also because you have that external view, people also look at you like, okay, they're open. They're open for your views and your input. But there's also a disadvantage because people know, because you are the external, you come in, but you also will leave. And like I said a couple of times already, I think, is that people change themselves. So making that connection with people, explaining how change will affect them, the process of sense making, that can be a bit harder if there's no level of trust, because, well, you're only here for a short time. You're telling me that I need to do stuff. Why? Can I trust you? Is it safe? And you're leaving anyway. So that's also always a bit of a hurdle you need to get across. And yeah, that's really the role of the change agent to really have that sense. Okay, how do I make that connection? How do I understand what their role is in the process? How the change affects them, and how can I help them to get things moving?
Do you have some tips and tricks here for how you?
Yeah, well, I think the common theme is situational awareness and situational leadership, right? In some cases, like I said, have the conversation with people on the work floor and understand how they look at the change. Are they motivated by it? Are they threatened by it? Do they understand it? Usually it takes a couple of rounds, right? The first time they hear something, it's like, okay, thanks for sharing. Second time, okay, it connects a little bit. The third time, it's like, oh, wait, you're talking about me, right? It's my role, it's my department, it's my colleagues who are affected. So have that conversation and take the time. And yes, there will be situations where actually the as is and the to be situation where some people just will not fit or will not accept the new situation, the new organization. Okay, let's be fair, let's be open. If it doesn't work, then I'm not going to help you. Even in those cases, to move on, and move on can be outside of the company. And that's, yeah, before you get that level of trust, it's investing time, listen to people, talk to people, be interested, be open, and yeah, like I said, takes time.
Yeah, that's the golden tip. And I can imagine that people might even sometimes tell you more as an external person because you're there more objective probably there.
Yeah, that's also true. You can be the sort of like an external benchmark, if you will. Sometimes even to understand, is there what's the future outside the organization? So, for instance, I've been involved in a couple of projects where, as part of the transformation, the IT was outsourced. There are still a lot of organizations who have got their own on-premise stuff and realize that, okay, that's distracting me from where I want to go. So I want to outsource that. But there's also people affected, of course, because they choose to work for a specific organization, sometimes have an emotional bond with the organization.
Yeah.
And then they realize that they are subject to an outsource, and they go to a different organization, which is perhaps even more commercial, right? Because you become a part of a technical supplier organization, something like that. Well, how does it work? What does it mean? Well, yes, it can be threatening, because you have to leave your current environment, but there's a wealth of new opportunities within that new organization. So, for instance, if you're very emotionally tied, almost, especially in healthcare, you see that people are emotionally tied to an organization because of family relationships. And then having to go to a more commercial organization, having to work for different companies instead of just one. That's a hurdle that needs to be taken. But on the other hand, when I sometimes revisit the cases I've been working with, and I check in from, okay, where are you? And they still work with that same supplier where it's outsourced too. So it can be successful.
Yeah.
Usually it is successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you see more, because outsourcing is then a common thing that you see in many transformation projects, assignments, but are there more common challenges that you see at different organizations?
Well, when you look at the digital transformation, right? If you want to be a digital first company, right, it starts with the people, right? Getting the people mobilized, getting your people, getting your innovation process in order, enable them to be more innovative. But it's not only your own people, but it's also the people you work with, right? Your suppliers, your customers, because, well, your organization is changing. Data is another hot topic, because the whole new products and services, it mostly starts with the data, and it goes far beyond just the BI environments and the dashboards that we all know and love, which basically give a perfect overview of what we have done in the past, but it doesn't say anything about what we can expect in the future, where AI and stuff comes in. And then the technologies come in. How do we adopt new technologies, and how can we accelerate more quickly? So like I said, it's a journey, and there are some common themes and common components in there, but it's usually also tailor-made to understand where is your customer today. What does being digital first or digital native, what does it mean for them? How do you get the people in that mindset? How do you work with data and apps, etc.? And how do you adopt new technologies going forward? It's depending per organization, and which makes it also fascinating.
That I can imagine. And how can you contribute to that, like that's acceptance of the new technologies?
Yeah, well, I think the first part is acceptance on the change leader itself, him or herself, and accept that it's not a project. It's not a matter of rolling out, like I said. It's almost like a repeatedly going process, having to explain why. It always starts with the why. Who is going to be affected? What are we going to do? How we're going to do it? And then you go back again. And sometimes you need to explain it again for the third time, why these changes need to happen. And in generally, that's fine. right? If you really want to be a learning organization, that last feedback loop, being challenged by why we need to do this, is exactly what you actually want to see. Even though it can be for some managers, it can be really threatening, right? You've worked very hard on a project. You've documented everything. You have had workshops. You have developed a strategy, and people are moving. Then it can be a bit threatening if people come up and say, "Why are we doing this again? Are these assumptions correct?" And then, perhaps you need to explain that again. So, change manager, be aware that yes, you have to repeat yourself. Yes, it's about people getting moving, to get things moving. And no, it's not a project.
No. And you have to keep repeating yourself to the people in the teams, but also to the senior stakeholders, probably, because it's also, they need to also stick to the dot on the horizon.
Sure, absolutely. Well, we all know the process of mapping out your stakeholders, right? Who is involved and who's got the most level of influence. Who do you need to inform? Who do you need to involve? I think one of the biggest challenges you'll face as a digital transformation manager is that it actually needs to get out of the IT space. Mm-hmm. A digital transformation, it's not about IT doing stuff. It's about the business doing stuff. And even still in larger companies, you see, for instance, with the agile transition or with adopting new technologies, it's often seen as a IT does something, and because it has got a fancy new tool like an AI tool that can do image recognition, for instance. I can use that tool to enhance my primary process, so I can process my goods more efficient, something like that. But then you're still thinking point solutions, right? I've got a new techie option, and I can use it in my primary process. But you don't touch the core of the process, and you don't touch the core of the organization. So business leadership needs to understand that they are involved as well. They are in the steering. They must also take control of this process as well, because it touches their organization. If you end up in a situation where you realize that, hey, this is only a IT transformation, IT does the same thing, but more smart, more efficient, more cheaper. Is that then? Are we then in the real digital transformation? Then Then be honest and stand up and say, okay, guys, what are we doing here, right?
And did you have, just out of curiosity, it's just real life examples make things easier or more interesting. Do you have examples of situations where you had to do that?
Well, for instance, I've seen now in a number of organizations that they're in the process of going to an agile way of developing their software and services, which I'm a big fan of, right? Because it provides more speed and more agility. But even still, I've seen a couple of cases where it starts as a sort of like we have the standing organization, the standing IT organization. We do it as sort of something separately. The same organization doing things in an agile way, with very little actually business involvement, because they see it like, okay, well, IT is doing an agile thing, and in the past I was talking to a project manager, and now I'm talking to a product owner, but they're still doing the same thing. And that goes on for a couple of months, perhaps a year, and then people realize that the whole thing of being agile, working in value streams, being really adaptable to changing business and external customer requirements doesn't really fly. Doesn't work, because the organization, the standing organization, is actually working against it. And then usually a big change comes in. I've seen it in a couple of times that for instance, in a financial, they really had to turn their leadership around, which means actually also a lot of leadership leaving the organization, really having to turn the culture around. And now it's really, and I think again, it's in the finance, it's perhaps a bit easier than in a care or a logistics organization. But they are actually now an IT organization delivering financial products.
Yeah.
With a very tiny bit on the a little bit of legacy IT, right? Service management, managing the hosting, the SLAs and stuff like that. But yeah, they are an IT organization delivering financial products.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've seen that happening in more industries. So that's and you're right. I think in like care and anything that has to do with a lot of people contact, you that will always be the key aspect of that company. But for others, yeah, it gave them much more speed and agility, and they're much more customer centric now, I think, as a yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I had this conversation actually a couple of months ago about, well, which roles are going to be affected by digital, by AI, new technologies. And it was only, I think, a research by Oxford University in 2013. So it was a long time ago. And basically the outcome was is that everything, all jobs, unless it's got a kind of a social people element to it, all other jobs will be affected.
Yep.
Which totally makes sense, right? Because care or hospitality, where people interact with people. But everything else will be affected by either robotics, AI, or any combination, data, etc., etc.
Yeah, yeah, and then you already touched upon it and before, like often external companies are involved, like outsourcing companies. How do you manage the relationship with the outsourcing companies? Is that also your role in as a transformation leader?
Well, I think you got dual roles in that. Like, first of all, you need to understand prior to going into a new assignment, you really have to have an understanding of what the market is looking like in general, right? You have to be a bit of a generalist to understand where the market is going to, who are the players, and how does it translate to solutions being offered by the different vendors in the country. But even still, you still have to be aware that in IT, the IT companies tend to deliver point solutions, right? Everybody's talking about digital transformation, and we're here to help you to become that digital first company. But it usually boils down to products. We're going to sell you product XYZ, and within our landscape, you can do this and that, but it's still this product suite that people think product suites. So you have to have this broad mindset to understand what is available out there, how does it all combine, and how can you really get a set together for a company to become really digital first. And then on the other hand, that's the second part of it. Yes, there will be services. Yes, there will be things you buy, stuff you have to manage, that will be directed, and you have to manage it. And then there is different strategies to do that. Right? Do you want to do it yourself? Do you have a lead vendor, a trusted supplier? That's the usual stuff you also have to take care of. Where does it land, and how do you manage the services? That's a sort of like a dual role you have to play.
Yeah. Any tips and tricks there? How to liaise between those
yeah. Well, be curious and have fun, right? There's so much out there. Try to have this generic understanding, this general understanding of where everything is going to. So for instance, I sometimes play a bit with AI, with LLM, large language models, to see what it actually can do. And but it's not like I'm using it on a daily basis, right? I think the use case is still a bit thin, but it will come.
Yeah.
So play with it to have a general understanding where the market is going and how it can be used. Same for data, same for integration, but also mind the people side of things, right? A digital transformation is a transformation first and digital second.
And then focusing on organizations that say they want to go into digital transformation and might want to hire like an interim transformation leader to do that. Do you have any tips and tricks for them that they should things that you think of before they start?
Yeah. Well, always ask the question why first. It always starts with why. And if the answer is, well, we want to be quicker to market. Okay, why? Right? It's the 5 times why. We all heard it. We all know about it, but it's not really often applied. Really try to understand on the lowdown why this thing needs to happen. Right? We need to be quickly adaptable to changing customer needs. Okay, yes, but why? But in the end, the answer might be, okay, we believe that our current business model is not durable, and our competition is faster. So it's either do or die. Okay, well, now we're getting to somewhere. Then I'll try to understand, okay, who is then affected? Who being the organization, who are suppliers, who are our customers, and even in today's market, it can even be combinations, right? That a supplier can be a customer or competitor can be a customer or partner. So how are we affected by it? Then have a good understanding of what actually then needs to happen. So not just the technology, but also from an organization, the stakeholders, the partners, right? How does the change look like, and how we're going to do it? And then that cycle, like I talk about, starts to roll out. So if you want to, so the takeaway: why, who, what, how.
Yeah.
And accept that it's a cycle.
Open questions all the time. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, then we're already through our half hour. Thank you very much for all the information. I learned again on new topics on transformation management. Anything you want to say to end this podcast?
Well, working in this area is a lot of fun. It's a very interesting field to be in, very interesting times. It's very challenging, and it's high speed. So I'm looking forward to connect and work with other people in this area, to share thoughts, share ideas, and looking forward to find out how we can help each other. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
You're very, very welcome.